Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining us on Tutors, Mentors in the City. I am your host, Kevin.com-Brown, and please join me in welcoming our guest for this episode, Miss Abja Midha. Hey! I know I screwed up your name, Abja. How are you?
I am doing well. Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing this beautiful sunny Friday?
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. So,
I'm excited to be here.
Well, here we go. Let's jump in. So I'll say this for the record. I've said this 60 times already in our interviews, but I do no research. I like to come from the perspective of getting to know you the same way our viewers are getting to know you. So I try to ask questions from that perspective. So Abja, who are you?
Sure. So yeah, my name is Abja Midha. I am a South Asian first generation female lawyer. A really committed nonprofit professional and a lifelong New Yorker.
Okay. So lawyer. That's impressive already, right? That's impressive already. And you said first generation?
First generation American. My parents are immigrants from India.
Okay, so at what point in your journey, in your family's journey, do you decide I'm going to be a lawyer? When did that hit you?
I will tell you, becoming a lawyer was like literally the last profession on my mind. I only decided to apply to law school when I was working at my first job post-college. Until then, if you asked me if I was interested in the law, my immediate response would have been absolutely not. I thought medicine, I thought economics, PhD, I thought business school. Law was like the last thing on my mind. And here I am. I have been a practicing lawyer for quite a while now.
Yeah. So what's the moment? What's the moment that happens?
Yeah. So I was working for a management consulting company right after college, and I always had a real desire to give back, a real interest in civic engagement, community engagement. In college, I was very involved with various public service programs. And so I was at this consulting firm. Most of my clients were, large corporations, but I did a fair amount of pro bono projects while I was there. And one of the projects that I worked on was actually for the New York City Department of Education. And I attended DOE schools from K through 8, so had my own, personal experience. But I think it was really that those few months that I was working with the DOE, and we were trying to address various issues that would help improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of New York City public schools. And time again, I kept hearing about how there were various laws in place that both hindered and helped, right, in innovation. And that's, I think, where I really started to realize that having an understanding of the law and having the ability to engage with the law is a really, really powerful skill set to have, and one that I could use to potentially advocate for positive change. And so I decided to apply for law school. And I will say, even when I applied for law school, I did not necessarily think I would end up practicing law. I thought it was going to be a great skill set I learned. And I had heard, right, a law degree is one that you can easily leverage and apply to different fields. And I went to law school and didn't look back.
Law school, how long does it take?
3 years. It is no joke. So I tell anyone who's interested in law school, think really hard about it. It is a huge time commitment. It is not all fun. And you have to take the bar exam once you graduate from law school in order to practice law. And that is a very, very painful process to study for. I know, I was very fortunate. I passed on my first try. I know many folks takes a few tries, and only until you pass that exam and become and get admission to the New York State Bar are you allowed to call yourself an attorney here in New York. And so it's a lot to put yourself through. Law school is also really expensive. And so, I always tell folks, like, you really got to be sure about it before before you venture into the space.
When you decided to go to law school, did you stop working or you worked part-time and you?
Yeah, no, I stopped working. And so I enrolled full-time. I would say most law schools are geared towards full-time students. I think there are, here in New York City, we do have some law schools that are part-time, that do offer part-time programs, evening programs. But so much of the law school experience is doing internships, clinics, and those are harder to do, right? If you're juggling work and school. I think there are plenty of folks who make it work, but it can be a little harder to manage.
Okay, so you already mentioned that you were first generation and you went to public school K through 12. So did they identify you as brilliant, or were you like, you were?
I went to I grew up in Queens until high school, and I went to my local elementary school, and was in all the standard classes. When I was in the second grade, my parents decided that let's go and try to live in India again. And so we moved back to India for 6 months, and in that process, the school that I was enrolled in, honestly, they didn't know what to do with me because I was ahead in reading and math. And I ended up taking more advanced classes. We stayed 6 months. My parents were like, going back to the US. This is not for us. Came back to the US. And again, the elementary school I was in at that time, they had me attending reading and math classes with the third graders. And by the end of the year, I think the school and my parents made the decision that academically, it would make the most sense for me to skip the fourth. Sorry, no, I'm messing up here. Second grade and third grade, I took classes with the students a year ahead of me, and then the decision was made that I would skip fourth grade. So I was a third grader, rising fourth grader. I wasn't really, I don't think I was really consulted. It was like, hey, this is what's happening. So I did it. And then, yeah, I mean, I think after that, I kind of caught up.
Okay, so you had mentioned that you were a consultant before law school.
Mm-hmm.
That means you had a skill set. What was your skill set? Consulting how?
Yeah. So I think so I was a business analyst at a management consulting firm, and I think there, got really, really great training in problem solving, strategic thinking, communications. We had to give presentations to to our clients. And so developed a skill set there through really, really great training, great mentors, great learning that I've been able to apply throughout my career. I did not have those skills necessarily when I landed there, right? It was the really robust training programs and the learning by doing that I was able to really develop that skill set.
Okay, so now back up again.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Yep. So we moved the summer before high school to Long Island. And so I went to Hewlett High School, which I will tell you, when I got to Hewlett High School, even though it was a public school, compared to New York City public schools, I thought I was like at a private school. I had never seen such a nice campus. Smaller class sizes, and it was quite the culture shock. My high school was smaller than my junior high school, but I really, really appreciate and value the experience that I had there. I think I really benefited from the smaller classes, the great attention from teachers. I had some amazing teachers who, I continue to stay in touch with from time to time. And I think it set me up really, really well for, my future academic and career success.
Yes. So you finished high school, go where?
So I did my undergrad degree at Brown. I actually had the chance to spend a summer there. My summer before senior year. It was the first time I went away from home. My immigrant parents, you did not send your kids away for the summer, and so I had to do quite a fair bit of convincing that this was a smart idea. But I went there, I loved it, I applied, I got in, and it was, I think to this day, I look back at it as some of the most formative years of my life, and also some of the most fun. It was such an amazing experience, and I feel really, really fortunate that I was able to go there.
Yes, Brown is like Ivy League, right?
It is. But it is also, I think, what I really loved about it was it's a campus with an open curriculum. They really encourage you to pursue your interests. So, you can create your own courses. You can explore everything. It's a really open place. And I think for someone like me, that was a really incredible opportunity. I got to try out so many different things while I was there.
Did you go on scholarship? Did your parents save the bundle of money since they came to the country?
Lots of financial aid. Lots of financial aid, right? I think and I don't know. I mean, now I think many private colleges have better financial aid policies with respect to providing need-based scholarships. At the time, it wasn't really there. So tons of loans, work study. I worked all 4 years while I was on campus. And a fair amount of debt, which I eventually paid off. But I think, from what I hear, places like Brown have made a lot of progress in terms of ensuring students do not have to graduate with as much debt as I did and my classmates did when we finished up.
And what was your major?
So I was an economics and international relations double major. And so I will say I actually started out college thinking I was interested in being pre-med. Took a couple of courses my first semester and realized that I'm not really sure I want to commit to this. So let me try other stuff. And I never looked back.
What'd you do for fun at Brown?
What did I do for fun? So, Brown for me was it was really the first opportunity that I actually started to get in touch with my culture and heritage. So I mentioned my family's from India, and it was the first place that I went to. It was the first, community that I found of other South Asian Americans similar to me, and so was involved in the South Asian Students Association. Also, really involved with the Women's Center, the Swearer Center for Public Service, and I think really enjoyed all those activities, which had a social element to it, and also some of them had a community service aspect to it too.
That was for fun. Wait, that was.
I mean, the usual, right? Brown had, Providence is a really great small city, really great theater scene, great art museum with RISD down the hill, movies, the usual stuff. The nice thing about Providence too is it was, not too far from Boston, so we'd be able to go in on the weekends, and hang out there as well. So definitely, did fun stuff too, not just school related.
This is hilarious to me because, I was on the volleyball team. I was on the basketball team. I shot pool. I danced.
I am not a sports person. I can tell you that. And I think that was probably one of the attractions about Brown too, was not a huge sports culture.
You read books for fun. That's what you did. You studied for fun.
Instead, no, I'd say going to the movies and theater, or fun stuff. And I'm actually trying to remember. I don't really remember how much I love reading. I really do love reading, but I think, with all the reading from class, I probably wasn't reading a ton of novels for fun, right? At a certain point, it's like, enough. Let me go see something on a screen.
Well, when my return to scholarly endeavors, meeting people like you is so fascinating to me. What do you do for fun now? Like, what did you do? What's fun to you now?
Yeah, I mean, still some of the same things. I love going to the theater, and I love to travel. I definitely I also, have a really, really, really crazy work schedule. So also self-care is super important for me. So I do a lot of yoga, and just try to kind of take long walks with my dog in the park, which is just a really great way to unwind. And then, I love to hang out with my friends, try new restaurants, explore new places. I think, that's a great thing about living in New York City. There's so much to do. There's so much to see. There's always something new. And I, try to fit in what I can.
No, that's outstanding. I don't want to make it sound like you're a unicorn or anything like that.
Far from it.
But it's just I'm watching this TV show. This is a total tangent. I'm watching this TV show that came out decades ago called Dynasty.
Oh yeah, I remember that show.
Okay, so for some reason I found it on Amazon Prime. I started binge watching it. And when all the sons go off and marry women who the parents don't think are good enough, okay. Right? So when the woman that's not good enough, she was a secretary, she's marrying the billionaire, and now she has to learn how rich people think, what rich people do. So that's what the show was about. Now, the show wasn't real. It was fabrication. It was a story.
Of course. Right. Had millions of viewers.
Yes, absolutely. And it was on for 9 years.
Right.
So I'm watching it now, and I watched it when I was a young man when it first came on, but I'm watching it now, and I'm like hearing the dialogue differently. How rich people think. Well, because you're rich, when he bought those gifts for you, you were only his girlfriend. You have to throw all those gifts out, give all those gifts to the servants, give that entire wardrobe to the servants. And now you have to go out and buy a new wardrobe for a wife, for the wife of a billionaire, right? So the mindsets are fascinating me now. I'm watching this and I'm saying, I'm trying to process it. So now I'm talking to a young lady who's a first generation college student, who is a lawyer by happenstance, who went to Ivy League college, who reads for fun, who goes to theater for fun, right? That's fun to you. So I'm listening to you, and I'm feeling like I'm learning about a society, a type of human being, you, that I'm not regularly familiar with. Okay? So you're fascinating. You're ready, right?
Yep.
So that's why I'm asking you the same question. I'm asking you the same questions over and over because I'm like, you're real. You're not. This isn't television. I'm watching you on.
Nope. I'm not interesting enough for TV. That's for sure.
You're not scripted. You're a real human being who just happened to just take. I'm going to law school, and I passed the first time, and I paid off my. I'm just watching you, and
I paid off my college loans. I didn't say anything about paying off my law school loans, right? It's a double whammy there.
Okay, so there's a distinction you make.
Yes.
All right. So you are obviously brilliant, and any entity that you work for, I can only imagine that you're an asset. You you bring much to the table, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope I contribute.
Yes, absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. When you were coming up, did you ever need a tutor or a mentor? Did you run into obstacles, or did you just have a brilliant, smooth path?
I never needed a tutor, but I will say mentors have played such a huge role in my career trajectory, right? I think, while I was fortunate enough to do really well academically, right, the academic space and the workplace are very different. And I've spent time both in public interest as well as in corporate. And I think, having mentors to help guide me, to help build my confidence, my self-confidence, to support me, to answer my stupid questions have all been incredibly, incredibly important. I would not be where I am today without all of the folks who have really provided me with a support network as I have moved forward in my career. And so, truly, truly grateful for that. And I really do see the power of mentorship. I, particularly in the corporate settings that I've worked in, definitely have walked into it and very conscious of the fact that I am a woman. I am, at the time I was young, I am brown. I have a name that people don't know how to pronounce, right? And so, I was different in so many ways. And um, I definitely, at many points throughout my career have very much experienced and felt imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? Why am I here? How did I get here? Do I belong? Right? And so I think mentorship has been really, really, really important for me in terms of kind of, helping me see helping me see that I do belong, right? And that I am contributing, and that I bring value to the workplaces where I've been. So absolutely key. I think mentorship is so important, and I do try as much as I can to provide advice and support and mentorship to to students, to early career professionals, as much as I can.
Okay, so well, I have I guess it's a two-part question, and I'm trying to figure out which part to ask first. All right, so coming from your journey, what's the best advice you can offer? What have you gleaned as this is the way to win?
I think just picking up on this mentorship piece, I think relationship building is so incredibly important, and building your network. Reaching out to people whose careers you find interesting. If you go to a talk on campus or watch a webinar, that's sponsored by campus, and the speaker is someone who who you admire, who you'd love to learn more about their career trajectory, reaching out to those folks, I think, and building that network is so critical. So many of the roles that I have had in my career over time have been ones that I have been able to learn about, to kind of get my foot in the door and be interviewed based on the networks that I've built. And so I think that is absolutely key. Those people that you get to know, and you get to know them in different ways, right? They might be peers, they might be mentors, they might be someone who you mentor, right? And one day you don't know where they're going to be, right? They might be, someone who can help you out. So I think, the networking, the relationship building are absolutely critical. And I think, that's definitely something that I saw earlier on in my career, particularly in the corporate settings, right? Kind of walk in the door, and folks folks already came in with built-in networks, right? They came from families of lawyers. They came from, families of, business school graduates, business professionals. They all knew the same people. They went to the same schools and, that sort of thing. I didn't have that. Right. And I've worked really hard to build that network, but I do definitely think that, those of us who come from, and again, it varies, right? Those of us who come from immigrant backgrounds where we're first generation American, our families don't have those sorts of networks, right? They built their lives here. And we don't have that history here. My peers who were the first in their families to go to college, the first in their families to pursue a particular type of career. Those of us who, I definitely feel like as a BIPOC woman, we are sometimes at a disadvantage when we're first stepping into any professionals, not many professional spaces, right? And so in some ways, I feel like we have to work extra hard to build those networks and those relationships. But once we have them, I think you really do see the power of what those relationships bring, of the power of having those mentors who can serve as your references when you're applying for jobs, boost your confidence, tell you, no, it's not crazy for you to go and apply for, whatever job you're thinking about, you can do it. So I think that, that network is so key.
Okay. You said BIPOC woman?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
I, Black, Indigenous, person of color, woman, person of color, right? And I do as I identify as a woman, and kind of within the BIPOC, BIPOC identity, as I mentioned earlier, I identify as South Asian American.
I never heard the term BIPOC before.
Oh.
That's why I asked, because I've never heard it ever.
Cool.
So you just introduced me to something.
Awesome. Yeah, it's actually it's a term that's newer to me too, right? In the past couple of years, I feel like when I was coming up, particularly in like college and law school, we talked more about, like POC, person of color, woman of color, right? I think, with the times, terminology changes, views on identity and how we represent ourselves change. And so, try to reflect that.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for bringing up a term. I try to stay on top of terminology. I'm a scholar now, but I'm also a stand-up comic. And one of my superpowers is to, I've been a stand-up comic for almost 25 years, almost 30 years. So I know how to speak where people live. Comics, mm-hmm. we walk into a place and get on stage, and we don't know the problems of the hundreds or the thousands of individuals we're performing in front of, but we have to make them all laugh together, right? We have to find those, yep. the notes.
And that is such an incredible skill set, which I tip my hat off to you, and I wish I had.
Yes, and it's one of those things where I came back to academia after dropping out of college. I was a dropout for 33 years. So I came back, I fell in love. I literally did a show last night, and one of my powers is to translate the knowledge, the knowledge that I'm receiving in institutions of higher learning, translate it and make it palatable and deliver it on that comedy stage in a way that the audience finds engaging and entertaining instead of boring and preachy, right? So when you give me a hip term, BIPOC, right? I'm scoring points. I'm taking that. That's my term now. I'm gonna put that in my toolbox, because now I'm right there, right on the line of, yes, I learned that. I went back to college. I didn't go to Brown, but I had a talk with someone who graduated from Brown, and let me show you what I learned, right? So I love getting new terms like that, because that's new to me. It might have been around for a while, but I love that. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm gonna change the way I ask this question with you.
Okay.
The way I typically ask the question is I say, what did we leave out? Right? We talked about what did we leave out, but I'm going to ask it different to you. What are you most passionate about? Right? Do you have a passion mission now? Like, what's your thing?
Yeah. I think for me, I am, and this has really been a thread, I think throughout my career and kind of where has led me to where I am today. I truly, truly believe that we, and I'm framing this as a New Yorker, right? I very much identify as a New Yorker. As a New Yorker, we have an obligation and a duty to help ensure that our community members, our neighbors, our colleagues, our friends are able to, live their fullest lives, meet their fullest potential, live with dignity. And, I have a skill set, right, as an attorney, and now I lead a legal services organization. And I am truly committed to helping ensure that every New Yorker is able to access justice and be able to get access to legal services for whatever problem they may be facing, whatever issue they might be facing, so that they are able to be on an equal footing with others and truly pursue, right, their life dreams, to ensure that they're able to put food on the table, that they're able to provide for their families, and they're able to live their lives with dignity and be respected, and proud of who they are and what they do and what they contribute. So that's my mission, and I've been able to work towards that in different ways at different points in my career. But that's what I really, really, truly care about. And I use my legal skill set for that.
Now, you were so humble during this conversation because you told me what you had done. You told me who you were. But it wasn't until the very last question that you said, I lead a legal services organization. Now that's different, right? You just changed the whole conversation. I talked to you for a half an hour and you never said I lead stuff. You just said, yeah, I'm a lawyer. I got my law degree and I didn't mean to, and I got it. And I'm just brilliant since I was a kid. You said all that stuff, but you know what? I was brilliant since I was a kid, right? I was supposed to skip third grade or skip fourth grade, and I did something crazy, and they just changed their mind, and then I skipped eighth grade later on. So I was brilliant in my neighborhood too, but I don't lead a legal services organization, right? How could you leave that out? We talking about leave that out. Are you trying to be humble? Is that what it is?
I'd like to think of myself as humble. So not, trying, but I try to live that, a value. And I lead a legal services organization, Volunteers of Legal Service. It's been about 2 years since I stepped into the role. It's my first time leading an organization. And, kind of picking up on what we were talking about earlier, the mentors that I've had throughout my career, it's, with their encouragement and their support that I am here today in that role. And I love what I do. I feel, really, really passionate about our mission, about our work. And for me, it is, I think, it's a wonderful culmination of all the work that I've done in my career, to reach this point where I'm able to, be at the helm of an organization doing great work.
What's the name of the organization again?
Volunteers of Legal Service.
Volunteers of Legal Service. Now, this always fascinates me. This will be my last area of questions, but this always fascinates me. How do you become a leader of an organization? Do you see a listing on Indeed and you send in your resume? Do you get a phone call? Hey, we've been watching you grow, or does someone How does that happen?
I think it can happen in any of those ways that you just described, right? And so definitely, I know folks based on their their networks and what they do get those calls, right, from recruiters in particular. I was I became interested in nonprofit leadership a number of years ago, and so it's something that I had been thinking about for a while. And in my case, I think I saw the posting on Idealist or LinkedIn or somewhere, and I applied for it, and was quite the process. But very fortunate to land this opportunity, to have a board that had confidence in me to take on this role, and now here I am. That said, right, I definitely, unlike my decision to go to law school, which was kind of more in the moment at that place in time, right? I was like, because I was thinking about grad school, and I decided, I was like, okay, we're going to go with law school. With this, with this role that I have, it's something that I've been thinking about, for a while, right? And so very much tailoring my past few the past few jobs that I've had in a way to try to gain skill sets, right? To demonstrate that I have the ability to step in and be a successful executive director. So, that has meant over time, pulling away from working with clients on an individual basis, and, thinking more about organizational management, managing teams, managing budgets, advocacy, fundraising, all that sort of stuff that is really, really key to being an executive director.
Absolutely. Being an executive director also means that if I wasn't fortunate enough to get you as a guest for this interview, I'd have to wait months just to get your attention.
I try to be responsive. I'm
a whole chain of minions trying to get a meeting with you.
No.
No, that's very impressive. You are one of the success stories that we try to highlight here.
Thank you.
I come from the entertainment world. Like, I've worked as an entertainer. I had a pretty great acting career, great comedy career that I've relaunched about a year ago. But I've worked with the tops of the food chain, as far as the biggest, the best, the Emmy Award winning, Golden Globe Award winning, biggest stars in the world. But I think, particularly after the pandemic, I feel like our society celebrates the wrong skill sets, right? And there are people like yourself who are just on an individual pathway, an individual journey that's not publicized, but are so amazing as individuals on the front lines of trying to make this world a better place. You're the type of people I think we should celebrate.
Oh,
right?
Thank you.
The people who start behind the eight ball, the people who start without the advantages and then, make good and then become executive directors. And kudos to your parents, right? Kudos to all the immigrant parents who had offsprings. Kudos to all the enslaved grandparents. I found out a couple of months ago that my great-grandfather was born a slave.
Oh, wow.
And here's the other thing I found out, that he was freed 5 years after the 13th Amendment was ratified.
You're kidding.
So
that's wild.
It's wild to me, right? Because I'm like, so the whole, how we watch politicians just straight up lie to us now, and we can fact check because of the internet, because of our information. But in 1865, there was no ability to fact check when a guy was lying to you and saying, no, the Civil War isn't over. No, you're not free, right? 5 years later.
Yep.
I'm finding this out now. I'm the byproduct of that legacy. So all of our parents, all of our grandparents, all of our great-grandparents who came to this country under horrible circumstances or under underprivileged circumstances, we someone like yourself, we don't, you were doing your thing. You went through your journey just as a young woman, just as a young lady doing your thing. But the shoulders we stand on,
Mm-hmm.
after I came through the pandemic, I look around, I recognize the shoulders I stand on. And I recommended us do this podcast, City Tutors. For anybody that doesn't know, City Tutors is a not-for-profit startup. We accept donations. We work with corporations to get sponsorship, but we provide tutoring and mentorship to basically the New York City community. But our biggest clientele is the CUNY system, which is anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 students per year. But not only do I recognize the shoulders that I stand on when I see people like yourself and hear your story and know the lack of resources, the lack of opportunities, the effort and the work that your parents had to put in to make their little girl turn into what you've turned into. I don't even know if we appreciate our accomplishments, our achievements, the track you're on. I love your story.
Thank you.
I am so impressed by your story just from that perspective, right? You are one of the success stories. And when you share your story with us on these interviews, hopefully the next generation, the young lady who's a little, who's smarter than everybody and school and bored and whatever, and parents want to take them back, and then they took, hopefully they'll hear your story and glean something from it, get something from it that'll help guide their path. So I look at you through a different lens, right? For some strange reason, and people like you. You are the success story. You are the heroic journey. You didn't do it alone. You stand on the shoulders of some hard workers, some strong workers. Again, kudos to your parents. But yeah, I celebrate you. I appreciate you. I thank you. I thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really enjoyed the opportunity to chat with you. And like I said, right, I think for young folks who are watching this today, seek out mentorship, seek out supporters, sponsors. I think, so much of, and I think, as you said, right, like starting with our families, that's the first place, right, that we really are able to achieve what we do with the support of our families. But then that support can only take us so far once we're out in the working world, right? Once we're out in college and beyond. And that's really where I think that those networks we build with teachers, professors, your first supervisor, someone who is, doing the same work as you and is a couple of years ahead of you and kind of already knows their way around. Like, all of those connections are so incredibly important. And I think the other advice I always give to young folks is when you build those networks, when you build those connections, find ways to stay in touch, right? It's so critical to stay in touch because you never know. You never know when something's going to come up where you're going to be like, oh, so-and-so, I want to reach out to them, right? And if you stay in touch, if you maintain those connections, if you update them, right, about what they're, what you're up to, what you're doing, folks love to hear it. I love to hear it from folks that I've mentored, and just seeing the progress that they've made. That sense of community that you build, that network, can only really help you continue to move further and further along in your career and in your life. So, I hope this was helpful for the folks who are watching. And I'll put it out there, right? And one of the suggestions I had was that if you're watching something, you meet, or attending a lecture and you see someone whose story you're interested in, whose advice you want, reach out to them. And so I put that out there, to anyone watching this, anyone who's interested in the law, anyone who is, first generation American, who's trying to navigate the cultural expectations of families versus what you want to do, nonprofit management, any of those things. I am always happy to connect with young people, and so definitely you can find my info on the Volunteers of Legal Service website. I'm on LinkedIn. Always happy to chat and share my story, answer questions, and if you want my advice, I'm happy to give it to you.
Abja Midha. Did I say it correct that time?
Yes, you did.
It's been a pleasure meeting you, and thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. This has been a lot of fun, so really appreciate it.
Yes, and I'll see you on the next one, okay?
Fantastic.
All right, bye-bye.